where are we going? Restream. Let's have a look. Oh, look, there's Mark removing his camera. Oh, and I'm frozen. Oh no, there we go. All right, I think we're live. Yeah, I can see myself nodding my head now.
Brilliant.
It says we are streaming to all the places, and we're not
Hello,
muted today,
all the places.
So,
yeah, that's an improvement, isn't it? We just had other audio issues instead.
Awesome, right. Welcome, everyone. So this is our second live stream after a bit of a chaotic start on Tuesday. So these live streams are related to Test.bash. So if you've not seen Test.bash, we will show you this now. So Test.bash is our automation-focused online test bash, which is happening on the 20th of October. 12-hour event. I think that time's set up wrong, so I might have to ask Diana, but I think it's 9 till 9. It might be 10 till 10, but I'm pretty confident it's 9 till 9. Yeah, time zones and Diana and Mark don't go together. Diana's our event boss, and Mark is the other chap on this call who we'll say hello to in a second. But yeah, Test.bash, I'm pretty sure it's 9 till 9, not 10 till 10. We'll get that fixed. But it's an online conference, 12 hours, and the focus of this conference this year is that we have a set of challenges. So we've given you 4 challenges: a UI automation one, an API automation one, a data management one, and a visual testing one. And what we've asked the community to do is to solve those challenges and send us a video explaining them solving that challenge. And we've had just under 50 of them sent in. So on the day of the conference, there's going to be 5 talks, an AMA, a panel, and you will be able to pick and choose through the 50 solutions that we've been sent. They will all be available on the platform as well as on the website after the conference as well. So what we and Mark have been trying to do is firstly let you all know about it, but also if we're asking you to do stuff, we should try and do it ourselves. So on Tuesday, if you're on YouTube, you can click on YouTube and watch this back. Mark and I, well, Mark mostly, took on the UI challenge using Cypress. And we got pretty far. I think I'm gonna. If you see me looking this way, it's because Mark's over here for me. So yeah, Mark, we got pretty far.
I'll look that way. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did actually. We managed to get something running, albeit quite hacky. But I felt like, the goal was to come out of that session and be like, I know how this tool works, or I know how to, do the fundamentals of that using that tool. And I felt like I achieved that goal. And also as well, like that component stuff was really interesting. So the component testing features of Cypress were new to me, and it was interesting. And that actually triggered off an interesting conversation on Twitter. And a few other people are looking at that as well. So it's definitely something I want to have a little look at myself in the future.
Perfect. But today's challenge is the API one. So I've taken the lead with this one, but I've kind of done it as we've asked you lot to do it. So instead of doing it all live, I'm not confident enough with my Ruby skills not to have got absolutely nowhere. So I've spent the last hour trying to get somewhere. Me and Ruby, so Ministry of Testing website's built in Ruby on Rails, and I'm trying to do my best to learn more Ruby, but actually I end up learning Rails and not Ruby. And then I'm doing a lot of front-end work, so I end up learning ERB and HAML, which is how you create views in Rails applications, and where mostly you write HTML just in a weird way, and you add CSS. So like my HTML and my CSS are very strong, but my Ruby is not. So I've spent this morning trying to do this challenge, and this is today's stream challenge, the API challenge. So what we've asked you to do is... actually, we should start just quickly who we are, shouldn't we? So, my name is Richard Bradshaw, aka The Friendly Tester. I currently run Ministry of Testing, but prior to that, I spent a lot of time as a tester, as a consultant. Still do a lot of front-end development for the Ministry of Testing website. And yeah, I teach people about automation and the theory behind it and how to get the most out of it. And I still try and dabble with a few tools every now and again. And you are, sir?
Yeah, I'm Mark Wintringham, Ops Boss at Ministry of Testing, so day-to-day running of things, but background in testing and author of Testing Web APIs, which is coming out very soon and available in all good bookshops and online stores. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one because I get to judge you a little bit on the API testing front.
You're going to rip this to pieces. Like I have tried. So yeah, today, so I'm taking this on using Ruby, and we'll get to the rest of that in a second. The challenge is the API one, which is to, as it says there, using an API automation tool that you think would either the community be interested in or you might be interested in. We need to mitigate this following risk, which is the Room API is unable to create rooms. So if I think about that risk first to start with, I'm just simply thinking I need to call the API, and apologies for the background noise, it will disappear shortly. I'm just trying to, I'm just going to try and call the Room API with some valid data, data that I know is valid from knowing the application and looking at the docs and things, and just try and get back a 201. I think is my goal. I know that's not a terribly strong assertion, but given my knowledge with Ruby and like the API testing tool, I think that's enough for me to know that I could use the tool if I wanted to. So that's my plan. I think that roughly mitigates the risk. Do you think it mitigates the risk?
I think so. Yeah, it's an interesting one because something we talk about in AIT. Like you could apply task analysis and say, well, there's lots of aspects to the room creation that we could check. But since this is an API one, I think what you're suggesting is solid.
Cool. So I have been cheating a little bit, unlike Mark. Mark did everything live. I'm not doing everything live, so we'll zoom in as much as we can. I'm going to tell you what I did, where I'm up to, and then if me and Mark, maybe he can help me, or maybe you lot can help me on the chat. I've got the chat open over here. So over here is the chat. If I'm looking over here, I'm looking at you lot watching. If I look over here, I'm looking at Mark, and if I look over here, I'm looking at the code. So yeah, I know a little bit about Ruby, enough to get myself going. So I knew I needed a test library, so I chose RSpec. RSpec is what we use at Ministry of Testing. So my first thing I did was I started by making a new project. I then needed to create a gem file. If you're not familiar with gem files, it's the equivalent of an npm file in JavaScript, or a NuGet in C# or Maven, or your POM file in Java. Just a place where you say, I want these libraries. And the libraries I've chosen to start with is RSpec, and we'll get to HTTP or HTT party. I don't know why they called it that, but HTTP party in a second. And then I install that, and then I run init RSpec, which basically in Rails you can initialize a lot of libraries, and they install various files and helpers for you. That installs this spec helper, which we don't need to do anything with. When you get more fancy with RSpec, you can start configuring it to do all sorts of fun stuff in here. It's a very powerful test framework. You can do mocks. It's got all your assertions in it. Everything's wrapped up into one, but we don't really need any more than that. And then I created my first test, which is version 1. We started with 1 test, and then I've ended up with, I think, 7. But they're kind of explaining my journey along the way. So I just wanted to know if RSpec was up and running properly. So I just wanted to do the famous assert true is true. So I got that running. And if I just run spec number 8, it's probably very small.
Oh, that is a tiny screen.
Yeah. How do you increase text size? Oh, there we go, bigger.
Can you just command plus it?
Well, that's just making the window bigger. Oh dear. One sec.
So it's interesting that you've got that RSpec init feature. It's definitely becoming much more common in a lot of these sort of tools as well. Like, so when I did the Cypress stuff on Tuesday, that did a lot of the initialization as well. You can do things like in the React space, you can literally create a React project, and not only does it set up all of like the infrastructure and folders and stuff for React components and stuff, but it will do all the React testing library stuff as well and set that all up for you as well. So it's encouraging to see this as becoming more and more of a common thing in projects. It's something probably you don't see so much maybe in the Java and C# space because, well, then I suppose actually you do have archetypes. It's not something I've really looked at that much actually, is what sort of, so like Maven archetypes are the same sort of thing as what you've done. with the RSpec in it. So we used archetypes on a few projects where we were like, well, we know we need Spring Boot set up, we know that we need Hibernate set up, that sort of thing. So I wonder if there is a few out there like of archetypes for like a basic Selenium project.
There's definitely there definitely is in the Java space. Yeah, definitely seen them.
It's not something I've seen shared very often. Like people are always sort of rolling their own and showing off what they've rolled their own, but rather than like here is an archetype that you can run. I mean, I wonder if even the Selenium team have done one. There we go.
I'll put that over there. So yeah, just wanted to make sure RSpec was actually up and running, just to make sure that it's not some sort of Richard cheating and hiding things from you all. It does work. So yeah, I was confident that I'd set up RSpec, and it's an interesting reason why I did that is on the Ministry of Testing project, it's 8 years old, so all this stuff's already set up for me. I don't have to worry about it. I literally copy a spec file and make a new one, so I never had to actually install any of that stuff. So I did that, so I've got my test framework running. I know that I then wanted to call an API. So it just so happened that I knew that there's a one called HTTP party. So again, I went along and installed that by adding it to my gem file, running bundle install to get HTTP party installed. And then I got quite comfortable with the screens that I've now closed, which are over here. Bring them back. I got quite comfortable with this docs page for for Ruby. So Ruby, one thing about Ruby is the docs are always very good. I think they've nailed having some sort of library that enables you to have code comments that make the docs easy. So I have spent a lot of time in this page in the last hour, which we'll come back to. But yeah, read the docs, it does help. And basically I realized I could just do a simple get. So what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to make sure HTTP party is installed and actually working. So I'm just going to do a get on rooms, and I'm expecting it to be 1. You lot are probably all on the website right now, so this will probably fail because there's probably far more than 1. And I did succeed in making some rooms. Oh no, there still is only 1 room.
I was going to say, so, I could always reset it for you if you require.
Yeah, but again, just to check it is calling the API, I change it to 5, and there isn't 5 rooms, there is only 1. And if I quickly pop to automation and testing.online, we'll see there is only 1 room at the moment. So I'm confident there that I'm calling an API, so I'm happy that I am using HTTP party properly.
I might have just missed that, but I noticed you put a Postman collection up there as well.
Yeah. So I'll get to the Postman collection, but yeah, I've been using this Postman collection, but I used it more for the actual data in a second. I knew what the endpoint for room was because I can remember from doing it in the class. But yeah, I didn't remember all the bodies, and that's one of the issues I do have. So once I was happy that was working, I reminded myself of what the risk was for the challenge, and I also went to the Postman automation and testing collection. So if you've not seen this before, if you head to, it's very small, I know, but Mark maybe.
Well, I've just shared a link in the chat.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I wonder what happens if I put a message in the chat. Where does that go? Oh,
see.
Oh, it goes to YouTube. Oh, okay. Interesting. Can't post messages
to
LinkedIn or Twitter.
And yours is an actual link. Mine is just text.
Ah, well, there you go. Right. So learning every day. All this streaming malarkey. Right. So I ended up on here, and Mark has been working with Postman to give you a collection of this project. So all the APIs are here, but obviously we're interested in Room. So if I go to Room, I can see that there is a post request. And in here, the body of what we need is in there for us.
You might need to zoom in a little bit. It's just a bit on the small side again.
There we go.
Lovely.
One less. There we go. So yeah, we can see that the JSON's there for us. Mark's saved that for us, which is great. So I basically took a copy of that just for my own reference. And then this is where my basic Ruby comes into play. I knew that I needed, basically an object. So I created a simple object, and I called it the request body. This is more me knowing rest assured and knowing how how I've built stuff in Java, where I would have created an object for the body. I've just done the same here using Ruby. So these are the exact same values that were in the Postman, but I just changed the description. This is causing me problems, as we'll come to see in a second, but we'll get to that. So I read the docs and I read a few things, and Ruby's got a fantastic helper called toJSON. So I call that helper, which basically converts that into JSON for me. And then I do a post, and I do a post to the API that I want to with my body. And then I try to send that, and I'm hoping that I get a 201. So if I run 38, you will see that I fail. I get a 415. So that was like my first problem. I was like, oh, 415. What the hell does 415 mean? Because I can't remember status codes. Do you know what 415 marks? Seeing as you've written a book about this.
Content type, isn't it?
It's unsupported media type. So
yeah.
Basically, I'm not setting any content type. So I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. So as I wrote my own notes as well, I got a 415. So I'm like, well, how do you add a content type? So again, I went to the Ruby docs for HTTP party, and they have in here there's a content type. I can't remember which one of these files it's in now, but you don't really need to know that. I guess you can find it yourselves. But scroll along here, and I need to set some headers. So in my headers, I need to set a header called content type of application JSON. So I tried that. So now if we run 64, we get a 400. What does 400 mean?
400 means you screwed up.
Does it?
It's client error. Generic client error. So I'm assuming you're getting some sort of validation error.
Status code 400. Bad request response.
It's a bad request, yeah.
So I think that's because I'm not authorized. So I think it's...
No, that would be a 403 if you're not authorized.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
What did I get just now? Did I get 404? No, I got 400 this time. Okay, well, when I did it last time, I got 404. So I don't know. Oh, sorry, yeah, I know what's happening now. Yeah, so this is the issue with the features one. So what I'm actually struggling with is the toJSON isn't parsing this correctly. Right. So if I scroll down, if I just put this if I just read the log, you'll see here it's putting an extra set of brackets around the object. So
no,
it should just be an array with
it should just be an array, yeah.
But it's not doing that. So if anyone knows if this is the wrong way of doing an array, but even if I get rid of this, because I thought, well, that's obviously what I've done wrong,
and then
I run
change
it again.
This. Yeah, but you need to change the semicolons to a comma as well. So turn it into a proper array.
So you want me to turn?
So that's correct. Just the semicolon, the colon after Wi-Fi. If you turn that into comma, and then make that an array. This is where my memory of my own application becomes a bit shaky.
Oh, now I got a 403.
403, yeah.
Ah, okay. Yeah. So this is my lack of Ruby. I thought this, because I made that a symbol, maybe it had converted it.
Well, you were trying to send a sub-object of Wi-Fi key value pair, whereas features just takes an array.
Well, that fixes that problem. So we'll fix that one further down the line.
But you've raised an interesting bug here. Is that actually you can, like, this is potentially a security risk, because you could glean the data type, the data structure, the model of room before you hit the validation, because it's giving you a 400 going, oh no, you've called me incorrectly, rather than going, you shouldn't call me at all.
Yeah,
and that's really interesting. But I mean, I have no idea how to fix that. I'm not gonna. But that's an interesting.
Well, what we'll do now is, and this is a useful story. So for me to proceed, I actually just took it out, and it's not a mandatory property. So
no, it's not.
It still works. So, but the way I got around this earlier was I just deleted it because I couldn't get it to work and it was blocking me. So because I knew it wasn't mandatory, I deleted it. But let's put it back in now that we're Mark's fixed it. Although he says, there we go. So now I'm getting a 403, right? Which basically is, what's 403, Mark? Not trusted, not authorized.
Not authorized.
Yeah. So I know, because I know RESTful Booker Platform, I know that means I need a token. So if I familiar with RBP and I log in on this beautiful screen down here with the very secure admin password details, and I inspect my application, I know there's a token, which is kind of how we get authorized. And I know on the API, which you actually can't really see in Postman Collection, right? It doesn't really, unless you added it as a header.
Well, actually, if you click just underneath the send button, I don't know why I'm pointing at my screen, but if you click cookies there, so Postman actually has quite a decent cookie manager now built in.
Yeah.
So, like, if you were using this in Postman, all you would need to do is send the auth request, and because I send the token back in a set cookie header, Postman will do the work for you, and then you've got that set up.
Okay. So I knew I needed a cookie. I knew I could send cookies as headers. That's purely from knowing, what is that I know, Mark? I know how headers work.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I know in some places, basically, if you add a cookie to a request, it ends up as a header. So I knew that's what I needed to do. I already learned how to set a header before, so I thought there must be a way of setting a cookie. And again, started Googling on the website and reading the docs, and you'll see on the docs, just because I really want to encourage people to read docs. Although this website is like hauling today, I'm not sure why. But yeah, it's probably because it's a Rails app, right? But yeah, it's taking its time, but when it does load, I'm not going to wait for it to load, it's boring. I learned that there is the concept of a cookie hash, which it will take care of it for you. I've no idea what it does under the hood. I can't imagine it does anything too fancy.
So what's going on here is that's the way cookies are built. So unlike other headers where you have key value pairs, what you have in a cookie is you have a key value of cookie and cookie value, but then you'll have lots of key value pairs within the cookie value. So token equals value, semicolon, welcome equals true, semicolon, Google Analytics ID equals that. So a lot of these tools do this, where you basically can build your cookies as a library. So you can add all your cookies in, and then you can call some sort of helper function which says turn it into a string. And that's so that's what your hash is doing. And Ralph agrees.
Ralph agrees, yeah, that's Ralph if you heard that barking. He's very protective of our office. If anyone even comes near the door, he thinks it's a threat.
Yeah. Especially if someone moves a monitor.
Yeah, Mark was in the office and like tried to move the TV, and Ralph thought he was stealing it. He was not happy.
Very dark.
So yeah, even though I don't fully know what this does, obviously Mark just explained it, I just trusted it and tried it. And then I saw there was an add cookie method. I give it the value of the cookie and then the actual value. So this might be out of date now because I'm sure RBP's reset. But I set my cookie here. I then add it here, and there was another method in the docs that said to cookie string, which is just converting that hash into what Mark just explained for us. So if I try and send 87, I'm probably going to get an expired cookie, but let's see.
Yeah, you probably get 403.
Yeah, I'm still getting a 403. So I'm going to steal the one that I just had on RBP.
But just refresh the page just to make sure it's not reset.
Yeah, you're good. So I'll just steal this cookie for now. And again, this is bad, and we're going to move on in a minute to how to do this a bit better. But let's try 87. It's green! But do we actually have a room? Let's see. Refresh it. We do. Oh, there's loads of rooms now. But I'm guessing 101 is mine because I didn't change the room name. So someone else has made a Mabel-approved room.
Yeah, you've also created a lowercase Wi-Fi.
So, yes.
Yeah.
So, shall I do it like this?
Yeah, so it just takes them as strings, and then it will check. It does like a matchup. To be honest, all of that is horrendous, and there's an interesting bug around that
There
that
you
will
go, yeah.
sometimes just turn it into numbers. So arguably, you could actually put other features in via the API, but you'd never be able to toggle them off or on.
Ah, I see. Right.
Uh,
So you wouldn't see them on the screen, but they would be in. They would be in there.
you'd see them on the screen, but you just wouldn't have a
So
control.
how would
to
I
turn
do
it
another
on.
one? Do I need to just?
So if you put like, let's put cake. I
Is
think
it?
if you put like, yep, that's it, and then you run another one, finding all. And this is the interesting thing. All the fun bugs are in the APIs.
Yeah. So it didn't shout at me.
No.
Oh look, cake.
Yeah, but you can't ever turn them off or on.
I see.
Yeah.
I've realised my mistake now. Sorry. Yeah, I thought, I don't know why, but I thought I was reading this earlier as that the Wi-Fi is safe. That's why I was doing it wrong. I thought I was expecting it to be a JSON object where instead of a collection of strings, as you said. That's why. Yeah, I get
need
it
some
now.
safe Wi-Fi. Some safe Wi-Fi.
So yeah, I now you can see theoretically I feel like I've mitigated the risk. I now have a working check. If I just prove that it can fail, because that's obviously important to do, so I just changed that to a 209 or something. I expected 209, got 201. So I set out what I wanted to do, and I was quite pleased with that because, again, like I said, I'm new to this, and it was only about an hour. But then I started to try and do. I wanted the token to be dynamic, and this is when I ran out of time and the call started. So this is where I'm up to, Mark. I'm up to trying to basically call the auth endpoint to get a token, and I got as far as trying to pull the token out of the headers.
You are so close. Yeah. So close. But it is, it's that line. So when you get the response back, it doesn't return back with a header of token. So you don't have a key value pair of token equals that. You need to call set cookies. So the header is set cookies.
I saw that in one of the docs and I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah, so if you go back to Postman,
yeah,
and go to auth and send a request. So if you hit send on that, so you don't get much in response. But if you look in the cookies, so it's added that in. But if you go to headers, you should see one that says set cookie token equals that. So yeah, you need to call somehow. You need to extract that set cookie header and then extract the token out of that.
Okay, right. So,
but everything else was correct. It's just
let's just try and do that. Get cookie. Oh, you can see I've been googling this already. I read something in here. So yeah, that gets the set cookie, but then I need to somehow parse it, don't I?
Yes. Yes.
So if I do that,
I wonder if perhaps you could turn that into a new hash.
So cookies, that will give me the cookies, right?
Yeah.
That should be a response. The downsides of copy and pasting.
So I'd be curious to know what is returned. Is that returned as a string, or is do you get or is it smart enough to turn it into an object of some kind?
No, I didn't like local variable of token because I've got rid of token now down here somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's just put that back to whatever string was I had before. We don't want to listen to H, do we? No one wants to listen to H apart from Richard. Let's just put that back.
I mean, I'm sure H would like lots of people to listen to H.
Right, so it printed out.
Did it print out
anything? Did it?
I didn't see anything.
That's the only method I know for printing.
Let's have a little Google. So HTTP set cookie.
P. But that's Rails though. I'm not in Rails, but let's try P anyway. That P won't work because it's not defined.
Yeah, it looks to me like just looking at just looking on the lives. Sorry, on Stack Overflow, it does just return it as a string.
Right. But is it set cookie or is it set? Is it? I think it's capitalized, isn't it? Yeah. I wonder if it needs to be set cookie.
Oh, so there is. You can use a gem with cookie support, apparently.
Just making sure that P is actually working. Yeah, so it is. I'm getting nil from that.
From that.
So it is.
Oh,
is that call
it's
correct?
yeah. It's not. I think it has to be. Oh, I saw that for a second ago. Oh no, that looks correct. How do I view response cookies?
Well, let's put the response and see if I
try lowercase. Try lowercases. So lowercase s, lowercase c.
Yeah, that a minute ago. Let's print both and see what we get. Oof. Okay, that's the response, isn't it? So I'm still getting nil.
Error not found.
Oh, I'm getting 404. That's why.
That's why.
Okay. So what have I done wrong here then? Automation in testing.online/auth
/login.
Ah. Ah, there we go. Token.
There you go. So yeah, it's. I mean, this is where Ruby Magic could come in. Is some way of parsing that so that you could extract the token.
Yeah. Well, this chap on. Oh no, I say it's a chap. It could be anyone. But this. That was bad. I apologise for that. But this person explained it somewhere. No, they didn't. It was on another one.
So someone's created a gem which is called HTTP Party with cookies.
Yeah, I'll just check this one because I did see someone do it. There, they did that. Oh, that's definitely some Rails magic, Ruby magic. So we make a new hash. It's called cookie.
There you go.
Login hash. And then that would likely add all the cookies. But that's
you would have to. No, you'd add your response cookies in there, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Response get fields set cookie. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I see. I see what you're doing. It's the other way around.
Well, they're using a get fields method. I'm not entirely sure where that comes from. Not entirely sure if it will work, but let's just call this token and see what it ends up being. See what that does.
Not quite. Still, it's just put it into an object. So set cookie.
Oh yeah, but I need to probably pin. I'm adding them to this object, aren't I?
Yeah.
So I'm adding them to the cookie login. Right, there we go. Now we've got. A
yeah, there you go. So now you can call token on that.
Yeah.
Cool. Fantastic. Dot.
Don't know if that will work actually, but let's call that. We don't really need that.
Yeah, you don't need that. You just I just get rid of that variable.
Yeah.
Set. And you're calling your map there. Undefined method.
Because I'm trying to call it as a method. So how do I? You have
to
do
it's
something like that.
Yeah, that's it. I was going to say you need to pass it as a symbol. God, this my Ruby is pretty rusty. So yeah,
let's see what we get now.
Because it's interesting. Right? I know nothing. Nice. I know nothing about Rails, but I do know like Ruby enough.
So before, I've just been rambling on trying to code stuff, right? The reason why I want to do this is because I don't want to be reliant on a hard-coded token, right? Because that's not what we would use. And so I've just seen the chat from Rich Downey about the Pry Ruby gem would be helpful here. Earlier on when I was hacking on my own, I kept trying to do this. And it doesn't work because I'm so used to Rails, and by default Rails has it installed. So it's all configured and set up. So I didn't go and install the gem.
Is that thing where you can basically jump in and debug as an interactive?
Yeah, so you get the whole console. Nice. You can literally call any Ruby you want.
Yes, I remember seeing that.
Right, so that's working now. We're using the cookie that comes from there, which means it's a bit more maintainable. It's a bit more atomic. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that's pretty much as far as I wanted to go, really.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic.
I don't know if that's very good Ruby or not, but
well, I think it gives you enough to start off with to show that you've got some of the fundamentals of working with this tool. Like, this is why I set this as an activity, as a challenge. Is predominantly when we're working with API automation, we're working with gets, we're working with posts, and we're working with some sort of kind of authorization and authentication. So that's what you've got here. I think that the tricky part, like the next step would be, is like, how do you make this clean? So, having your login stuff run before your checks run, so you've got all of your all your tokens and all that sort of stuff. And then things like for example, you've got 2 payloads that are the same.
Yeah.
So you'd probably want to think about, like, how am I going to structure my framework so that I can literally call some sort of builder, which is kind of what we've talked about before. I could just call something to say, build me a payload, and then send it.
Yeah, I actually don't think that will work now. What I've done, I think it will fail because I
you
don't think you can access.
You need to change the scope of your token.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that. So.
Put an @ next to it, if I seem to remember, an @ and then you can use then if you go down into your thing and change that to an @
Oh, so like an instant variable.
Yeah, I think that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, slightly better.
Man, like that just the bowels of my memory.
But you see, the thing that's interesting here is, like, just because I'm just going to open this, I know someone might steal or laugh at some of the MOT production code, but if I go to the actual MOT website, right, which is where I've been doing most of my work recently, and I'm so used to let's just look at the lesson controller or something. So I'm so used to seeing stuff like this, right, and I know that means that I have access to the podcasts from my view. So if I go to the view and I type at podcasts, I get access to it because the controller's given it to me. But I've not been in this space yet to think about how it's the exact same Ruby, but how it works in this instance.
Yeah.
So
it's just knowing the scope rules, really.
But as please, anyone watching, if you thought this was like a masterclass in Ruby, it's not. This is beginner Richard trying to do something in Ruby.
Well, interesting. At the risk of plugging a little bit, your next step would be, how would you structure this in a clean and dry way, which I did some blog posts on way back. So I don't think the Ruby has changed much, but I was using net HTTP, so I don't think HTTP party even existed at that point. But then this is something also I've talked about in the book, about, like, there is a pattern in which we can structure these sort of frameworks. So we have an area to manage our payloads, we have an area to manage our requests, and then our checks just have those sort of bits and pieces. But at its core, what it's doing is exactly what you've got here. Well done!
Oh, cheers, mate. One sec.
Did very well. Could you sign this for me, please?
Are you going to? Do you want to plug your bookmark? Are you ready? There we go. Right.
Yes.
So, that is to the end of today's stream. I believe I've mitigated the risk. I've used a tool I've not used before. Hope you can get an appreciation that I tried to use my experience to show you that I've taken things I've learned from other tools and coding other things and tried to get by with them, utilize that knowledge to be able to do things here. Again, I imagine it's not perfect, so these challenges are actually live all the time on the Ministry of Testing website. So if you go to the Learn category, well, they're there as well, but click on challenges. All the challenges that we add are available here, and you can log on and solve them yourselves. So if I just find this one, there it is. So right now, you can just take the challenge, but hopefully in the coming months, we're going to allow you to upload your challenge. Or Mark needs to fix this as well. That needs taken down. But yeah, we'll update these challenges, and then in the future, there'll be a box down here that shows solutions. So you'll be able to basically upload your solution to any of our challenges that we have, and people can learn from them in the future. So we're designing these challenges as a way of providing you a place to practice. What I've just done there is basically practice some of my Ruby skills and been able to learn a lot more on the way. So that's the idea behind these challenges. And then, as we mentioned, we've got the conference, Test.bash online automation conference, coming on the 20th of October. So if you want to attend, it's £75 to buy a ticket, or if you're a pro member, it's included in your pro membership. So as you can see, I'm logged in and I'm pro, so therefore I can just register. But if you're not, there'll be a link to buy a ticket as well. 12 hours of automation chit-chat, demos, talks, AMAs, panels, and then obviously the fantastic community in the chat sharing some things. And we're also going to have a tool, the Wheel of Tools.
Wheel of Tools!
We're going to have the Wheel of Tools exercise, which is essentially just going to be, I'm going to assign you all random tools that you might have heard of, you might not. And I'm going to give you like 15 minutes to just rapidly learn about it. So going to get that. That will be happening as well for a bit of hands-on fun.
Yep.
Yeah, anything I missed, Mark? Anything I've missed?
Just to mention as well, Richard and I will be coming to the States in February next year. We will be running automation and testing, our 3-day course. We will be in Chicago, in North Carolina. Starting in North Carolina, then making our way up to Chicago afterwards. But if you would like to learn more about, the why, the strategy, if you're someone who has created automation, feels comfortable with the code, but kind of needs direction in terms of where to take it, we can help you. If you're someone who manages people who does automation and wants to know how to manage them, we can help you with that sort of stuff. We have lots and lots of stuff to share. So take a look, come join us. It's going to be great.
Perfect. All right. Thank you all for watching. Next week, I believe, is it Tuesday, Mark? Let's have a look.
Tuesday is visual, which is going to be interesting. I'd love to hear some suggestions
Monday.
of visual
Did
tools.
You mean Monday or Tuesday?
No, I meant Tuesday. That's a new one for me. not even the right day. Can't even do time zones. Just days wrong.
All right. There's a lot of stuff to fix. Anyway, next Tuesday, we will do the visual testing challenge. Probably imagine Mark will lead that one, and then we will come back and do the data challenge on Thursday next week.
Yeah, I've got some interesting ideas for the Thursday one, for the data challenge one. I'd love to hear if people want to share on Twitter at Friendly Tester or at 2-Bit Tester what visual testing tools we should have a look at, because I think we have a go-to, but I don't really want to go to that. I want to try something else, so I'd be open to any suggestions.
Yeah, ping them in the chat on YouTube and LinkedIn. I'll read all the comments later. So if you do know of any visual testing tools that perhaps are new or not as popular, please send them in there. Only, again, this is because me and Mark are doing these challenges because we want to learn. So the one we're not talking about is Applitools. Me and Mark both know Applitools. We could get that demo up and running, and we're not going to learn as much as we would want. So therefore, I would love to learn a different tool because it's me learning that experience. But if you've never solved a visual challenge before, absolutely go and give Applitools a go. It's just me and Mark are looking to learn something we don't know.
Yep.
So, awesome. Right. Enjoy the rest of your days, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. Hopefully see you at Test.bash and maybe catch you on one of the live streams next week as well. All right. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone. Bye.